What's up, producers? So today we're going to do a rundown of the NAMM Show 2026 highlights, specifically for producers and specifically for the coolest gear that I saw and some of the most exciting stuff that I saw as a music producer there. I will note that this year they didn't have as much plugin stuff and DAW stuff as they have in the past. Like Ableton didn't have a stand there, which I was pretty upset about. There wasn't really a lot of like plugin companies there like I've seen before. So I really kind of focused on MIDI gear and some really interesting, cool kind of MIDI instruments that they are bringing out this year. So we're going to kind of go over those and which ones I think are the most exciting for 2026. So the first MIDI instrument that I was super intrigued about was the Orchid. So Orchid is a synthesizer by a company called Telepathic. And basically what this is a compact standalone, if you want it to be, synthesizer and chord maker. So it has 3 separate synth engines, which basically allows you to create like retro keyboard sounds and textures. It's got a ton of onboard effects, so effects that are built in. It has real-time looping controls and a beat machine preloaded with selection of modern grooves. There were a few things that really stood out to me about this MIDI controller. The first being the chord generator. So there's 8 buttons on the left that allow you to press them down and generate pretty much infinite chords with just playing one key. So for instance, you can select one of the buttons and play a triad with every note you play, or 7th notes, or really anything. So this was really cool, and my favorite part about it was the guy was actually telling me that this converts directly to MIDI. So if you were to connect this to Ableton, you could actually now play chords in Ableton with one note, and it's going to give you the entire note in MIDI in Ableton. That was really cool. Also, it has 2 little speakers at the top, and you could actually take this standalone and just play it with no headphones or anything and go jam out. So super compact, super cool idea. The branding and everything was really cool. From what I understand, these are currently sold out, and there's a wait list for them. So that should tell you that they're pretty popular. So really cool, definitely worth checking out. I'll link this in the description. So also YumAudio had a little bit of a stand here, and YumAudio is one that I briefly heard about before. They create plugins, but they were giving me a tutorial of some of them and they were pretty cool. So the first one being SLAP. So SLAP is basically a drum character weapon, and it analyzes your transients and lets you replace or enhance the kick or drum without wrecking the body of it. It works insane on kicks and snares when they're hitting, but they're not like fully cutting through. He walked me through a tutorial of this and it sounded really good. I have transient shapers and drum character plugins and it just sounded really dope. So this one was cool. Ember is kind of like their flagship synth, and we spent quite a bit of time playing with this one. It isn't clean. It has analog replicating controls here, but they were pretty unique and pretty flexible to play with. So for instance, there was an XY control for rust, so like how much rust would be on an analog synth and the sound that would cause, and then heat, which adds a little bit of distortion. So playing with it, you could get a lot of like really organic sounding analog synth sounds. Sounded really cool. I like stuff like this with a bunch of XY modules where you can kind of just be creative and drag them around. So yeah, it sounded really cool. Had a really good analog sound to it for sure. So YumAudio's got some cool stuff. Never heard of them, so I figured I'd share them with you guys. Definitely worth checking out. I'll link these in the description. So the next MIDI instrument that really stuck out to me was the Osmose. This one's really crazy. At first I was playing with it and I just didn't know what was going on with it. So the guy came over and showed it to me. And basically, it's a MIDI keyboard, and in order to get expression and pitch changes, you actually push the keys to the left and to the right. Really unique idea. I've seen stuff like the Rolly where you can scoot up and down the note, but to be able to kind of create vibrato and pitch changes by wiggling around in the notes is super unique. I had a lot of fun playing with this one. It sounds like they have some pretty good integrations with plugins as well. And yeah, just a really cool idea. So another MIDI control that I had a ton of fun with was the Alphatheta Slab. So for those of you who don't know, Alphatheta, previously known as Pioneer, so it's basically Pioneer's newly branded company. And it's a hardware controller that's built specifically for Serato, which is kind of interesting. So basically, Alphatheta teamed up with Serato and said, let's make beat making actually feel like playing and not clicking around. So what makes Slab cool is that it brings the gut feeling of music right into your hands. So you have 16 velocity sensitive pads that felt super snappy and responsive when I was playing with them. Really good for finger drumming and chopping up samples. So basically it's like a hands-on controller, and you could play a track and then in real time you could chop up that track, and all the warping algorithm sounded super cool. So basically it's like a really cool effects module that maybe the Pioneer CDJs would have, but in a drum machine that really brings about like a new type of creativity. So really love playing with this. I got stuck on this one for probably a good 30 minutes. And I really got to give a shout out to this dude. This one really caught me off guard that they had this at NAMM, but it was essentially a musical butt plug. So like the Apple meme of like the subwoofer, it was legitimately basically that. And I like walked by the stand like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, there's absolutely no way this is what I'm looking at right now. And sure enough, I went and talked to the guy and he's like, yeah, like this is our idea. It's doing really well on Kickstart. And he was very excited about it. And it was just like, it's crazy where, you know, music has gone these days. My personal 2 favorite parts is I met Decap, who is a legend, one of the best producers ever. I know he doesn't look excited, but it was cool to meet him. I've been talking to him on Instagram for a long time. And I also won a RMEFirefaceUCXII. So they had like a giveaway. They did like 3 or 4 every day. And I was like the grand prize winner. Super hyped on that. So overall, that's my take of NAMM 2026. Some cool stuff that I saw as a music producer that's definitely worth going and checking out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.